Let us discuss Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's thoughts on social justice. Introduction. Ambedkar held the view that social injustice was due to the practice of untouchability, a product of the caste system. Ambedkar believed that the root of the caste system is religion attached to Varna and Ashrama, and the root of Varnashrama is Brahminical religion, which is based on authoritarianism. Hindus are not merely a variety of caste, but many groups, each living for itself and for its selfish ideals. On one hand, there is similarity in customs, habits, beliefs, and thoughts. And on the other hand, past atrocities and fights are kept alive through caste system. Thus, it is the caste system which prevented the Hindus from becoming a unified society. According to Ambedkar, untouchability shuts all doors of opportunities for betterment in life, prevents opportunity to move freely in society, compels life in dungeons and seclusion, prevents oneself from education and profession. Therefore, untouchability has ruined the depressed classes, the Hindus, and the nation. Ambedkar concluded that the caste system did not lead to economic efficiency nor improved race. Instead, disorganized and demoralized the Hindus. The effect of caste on the Hindus was deplorable because his loyalty, his public image, his virtue and morality was caste-based. Thus, Ambedkar hoped that social justice can be established by replacing caste system by a rational and functional social organization. He believed that progress can be achieved only through change in social order. He held the view that India can be a modern nation only by removal of caste system, because anything built on the foundations of caste will crack and will never be a whole. Let us see the efforts put forward by Dr. Ambedkar to bring social justice. First, movements. In 1923, the Bombay Legislative Council passed a resolution that people from the depressed classes should be allowed to use places which are built and maintained by the government. In 1927, Ambedkar decided to launch a Satyagraha movement to create awareness about the civil rights of Dalits to use water in the public places. After the meeting at Mahad, Ambedkar and his followers proceeded to the Chowder tank and drank water from the tank. The upper caste Hindus were upset and used cow urine and dung to purify the water for consumption of upper caste Hindus. Ambedkar, in his address to the Dalit women, asked them to abandon age-old customs that marked untouchability. For example, to wear saris like upper caste women. Ambedkar decided to hold the second Mahad conference in December 1927. But Ambedkar was unable to continue his satyagraha because a case was filed against him. It was during the Satyagraha that publicly Ambedkar condemned the Hindu law book Manusmriti for ideologically justifying caste discrimination and untouchability and burnt copies of Manusmriti. He took to legal route, and the Bombay High Court in 1937 ruled that untouchables have the right to use water from public tank. Ambedkar launched the Kalaram Temple entry movement in Nasik on March 2, 1930. Around 15,000 volunteers gathered at the temple for a peaceful protest. The Bombay government imposed Section 144 of the Civil Procedure Code. During the Satyagraha, the protesters faced hostile attacks from upper caste Hindus. This Satyagraha continued for 3 years, but the temple doors remained closed for the lower castes. After this experience, Ambedkar did not participate in any other temple entry movement. The temple entry movement led by Ambedkar was not just about gaining access to temples, but a struggle for Dalit rights and dignity. It also made the oppressed class socially and politically conscious. The Temple Entry Bill was proposed by P. Subbaraya in November 1932 in the Madras Legislative Council, but the Imperial Council rejected the bill in Jan 1933. The Temple Entry Proclamation Act of 1939 was passed in Travancore, which granted the Dalits and others the right to enter temples and participate in temple rituals. Second, through government. The Simon Commission was formed on November 1927 to review the Government of India Act 1919 and to suggest further reforms in the system of administration. The Simon Commission came to India in 1928. Ambedkar was appointed by the Bombay Legislative Council to work with the Simon Commission to the Bombay Presidency Committee. On behalf of the Bahishikrit Hitakarni Sabha, he submitted a memorandum on the rights and safeguards required for the depressed classes. Ambedkar stated before the commission that there was no link between the depressed classes and the Hindu community and therefore should be regarded as a distinct and independent minority. He pointed out that as a minority, the depressed classes needed political protection because of educational backwardness, economically poor condition, and social enslavement. He demanded for joint electorate with reservation of seats to ensure their voices heard and their rights are protected. He also stated that in case universal adult franchise was not granted, then a separate electorate for the depressed classes was needed. Thus, Ambedkar aimed to address the historical oppression and depression faced by the depressed classes and to ensure their political empowerment. The 3 round table conferences of 1930 to 1932 were a series of peace conferences organized by the British government and Indian political personalities to discuss constitutional reforms in India. Ambedkar, in his testimony to the first and second Round Table Conference, had demanded for a separate electorate for the depressed classes. The British government agreed with Ambedkar, and British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald on August 16, 1932 announced the communal award in favor of the depressed classes for a separate electorate. Gandhiji opposed the communal award. Gandhiji fasted unto death in the Yerwada Central Jail, protesting against separate electorates because he felt that it was a device to separate the untouchables from the Hindu society. Due to Gandhi's deteriorating health, Ambedkar relented and signed the pact with Madan Mohan Malviya on 5th September 1932. Thus, due to the Pune Pact, the idea of separate electorate for depressed classes was abandoned, but ensured reservation of seats in the provincial and central legislature. The Pune Pact was accepted by the government as an amendment to the communal award. Ambedkar was a member of Bombay Legislative Assembly since 1926. In 1937, Ambedkar tabled a bill in the Assembly aimed at abolishing the Koti system prevalent in the Konkan region by creating relationship between government and farmers. Ambedkar served on the Defense Advisory Committee in 1941 and as a member of Labour in the Viceroy's Executive Council from 1942 to 1946. During his tenure, Ambedkar was instrumental in bringing about several labour reforms, led to the establishment of a Mahar battalion, overseas scholarship for untouchable boys, establishment of employment exchanges, laying the foundations of industrial relations, labour arbitration as well as irrigation policy of the Damodar Valley project were noteworthy. The Lahore Resolution of 1940 of the Muslim League demanded creation of Pakistan. Ambedkar wrote a 400-page tract titled Thoughts on Pakistan, which analyzed the concept of Pakistan in all its aspects. He argued that the Hindus should concede Pakistan to Muslims and proposed that the provincial boundaries of Punjab and Bengal should be redrawn to separate the Muslim and non-Muslim majority parts. Upon India's independence on 15th August 1947, he was entrusted with a responsibility by appointing him as the chairman of the drafting committee. He fashioned a pluralistic and inclusive constitution that guides and animates India to this day, guaranteeing equal opportunity and freedom of expression and faith for all citizens in a secular democracy. The formation of the Reserve Bank of India was due to his recommendations to the Hilton Young Commission. In independent India, Ambedkar was appointed as a Minister of Law and Justice of India in the first Nehru ministry. On 27 September 1951, he resigned from Nehru's cabinet due to differences on Kashmir issue, India's foreign policy, and most important, the defeat of the Hindu Code Bill in Parliament, through which he wanted to create a uniform civil code and also secure equal property rights to women. Ambedkar contested in Bombay North in the first general election of 1952 but lost the election. He tried to enter Lok Sabha in the by-election of 1954 from Badra but lost again. Third, organization. Ambedkar established the BHS, that is Outcast Welfare Association, on 20th July 1924. The objectives were A. To promote the spread of education among the depressed classes by opening hostels. B. To promote the spread of culture among the depressed classes by opening libraries, social centers and classes or study circles. C. To advocate and improve the economic condition of the depressed classes by starting industrial and agricultural schools. D. To represent the grievances of the depressed classes before the government. The motto of the BHS was educate, agitate and organize. Fourth, writings. Ambedkar launched a movement against Dalit discrimination by creating opinion through his writings in periodicals such as Muk Nayak 1920, Samata 1928, Janta 1930 and Prabhubuddha Bharat 1956. Through his writings, he criticized the traditional Hindu caste system and the existing caste discrimination leading to inequality and injustice of the depressed classes and sought protection of Dalit rights. Through books like Annihilation of Caste, Who Were Shudras, The Untouchables and Buddha and his Dhamma, 1957, Ambedkar sought to criticize the caste system as a social evil that creates inequality, discrimination and social divisions. Ambedkar believed that annihilation of caste could be achieved through various means. A. Intercaste marriages to break social barriers and promote social integration. B. Education and social awareness, educating people about the evils of the caste system and raising awareness about the need for social reforms. C. Legal and constitutional means, implementing laws and policies that prohibit caste-based discrimination and promote social justice, D. Religious and cultural reforms, questioning and reforming religious beliefs and practices that create caste system. Thus, Ambedkar sought to create a society where individuals would be treated with dignity and respect regardless of their caste, and where social or economic opportunities would be available to all. In his book, Who Are the Shudras, published in the year 1946, he rejected the Indo-Aryan invasion theory and pointed out that the Shudras of the Hindu society was different from Shudras of ancient Indo-Aryan society. In the Hindu society, it refers to individuals of a low social status who are basically uncultured, whereas in the Indo-Aryan society, it referred to a particular race of people. The Untouchables, 1948, was a sequel to Who Are the Shudras, in which he pointed out that untouchability had no racial or occupational basis, and the distinction between Hindus and untouchables in ancient times was similar to that between tribesmen and alien tribes. Fifth, party. In 1936, Ambedkar founded the Independent Labour Party, which contested the 1937 Bombay election to the Central Legislative Assembly for the 13 reserved and 4 general seats and secured 11 and 3 seats respectively. In the provincial elections, secured 14 of the 17 seats in which they contested. Ambedkar in 1942 oversaw the transformation of his party, that is Independent Labour Party, into the Scheduled Caste Federation, an All India party, to campaign for the rights of the Dalit community. The federation did not achieve much success. In September 1956, Ambedkar announced the establishment of the Republic Party of India by replacing the Scheduled Caste Federation. By the time it came into existence, Ambedkar had passed away.